You know, I used to find it really cute when people would complain about washing poles and fair and great swords, but now, oh my goodness, the amount of hate, the amount of whining, the amount of complaining people are doing about these swords is just unbelievable. And don't get me wrong, the Ringed Knight paired greatswords are very, very good. They're a very good weapon, but my god are they far from unbeatable. If you guys watched the video I uploaded right before this one, where we kind of looked at the perseverance skill, didn't really talk in that video, just put on some meek mill, prayed for him, and just dominated anybody using these swords. That is a way to consistently beat these weapons. So let's get that out of the way first. These weapons are far from unbeatable. If you want a way to virtually consistently beat these weapons 100% of the time, just learn to activate a Black Knight Sword's perseverance skill as soon as you see that startup of the L1. You'll beat it 100% of the time. And while yes, ultra weapons and things like the Dragon Slayer Great Axe could technically contest with this weapon, they're just not as fast, and there are exploits in their movesets that this sword can really use to outplay them, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you want to know how to beat these swords, Mace or Black Knight Sword, a small and medium-sized weapon respectively that each have a very fast perseverance skill activation and very fast R1s that you can come out with and punish the slow-moving L1 with this weapon. But enough of that. Let's talk about why people think this weapon is overpowered. The first is because of its incredible degree of coverage. Okay, this weapon has two amazing things going for it when you two-hand it. I don't know why you'd ever want to one-hand this weapon, but yes, we're only going to look at it from a two-handed perspective. The first is the go-to move, which is the L1. The first L1 that you do with this weapon is a lunge forward with both of the swords, and it has a lot of forward momentum, and I mean a lot. You can be virtually, you know, a couple of paces back from your opponent, move in for the attack, and virtually no matter what the opponent is using, except if it's going to be something with perseverance, or maybe an ultra weapon if you mistime it, you're going to cut through any kind of attack the opponent is doing, whether it's with a medium or small weapon, and you're going to combo them with that L1. And then you're going to follow up with the second L1, which again has a whole 360 degree range of coverage, and you're going to catch him for a 2-hit combo, which does an insane amount of damage, to be honest. And what's nice is, again, even if you miss with that first L1, if an opponent rolls away, as long as they don't hit you out of the attack, the follow-up L1, like I said, has a 360 degree range of coverage, which virtually makes you safe, because your opponent's not going to go in and contest that, because no matter what angle they come in from, they're likely going to get hit. So how do you beat these weapons? Well, aside from perseverance, it really just depends upon picking your moments, because these weapons do have a good amount of recovery frames on their attacks, which people don't really seem to notice. They play scared, they play defensive, and while you can't really be overly aggressive on these weapons, you want to make sure that you pick your moments properly. Just like with this weapon, when you go up against other ultra weapons, you need to pick your moments properly if you don't want to get out-comboed and hyper-armored through. But we'll discuss that in a little bit. So, that's the first thing why people think that these weapons are overly too powerful. They're OP, basically, right? Too good. They need to be nerfed. But really, not so much if you actually play intelligently. Now, what you want to do with these weapons, if you're using these weapons, the first thing is never use them if you fight somebody going up, if you fight somebody using a mace or a Black Knight Sword, because if they're using perseverance, you're not going to win. You're going to have a very hard time. You can technically win, yes, but it's going to be a lot harder for you. Any other matchup, yes, use these weapons. You can have an advantage. Against small and medium-sized weapons, it's virtually no contest. Just space out your L1s, go in, attack. You know, just don't be too stupid, and you're virtually going to out-trade and out-damage any other weapon that you go up against. Shields, virtually no problem. If they try to block, you saw in a few clips that with 2 hits, or even 1 hit in some cases, we're able to knock them out of their shield and do a critical. So shields are no problem. So in those 2 regards, these swords absolutely demolish any smaller type weapon. Now, this match that I'm going up against right now with this guy using a glaive type weapon, I think he's using the split leaf greatsword, which for some reason, I don't know why it's called a greatsword when it's a glaive type weapon, but whatever. Now, what this guy's going to try to do here is he's going to try to play reactive, and you see there, as soon as he saw us starting up our L1, he tried to attack with his glaive type weapon. We spaced it correctly so that we were able to connect with our L1, and he wasn't even able to get out his R1 attack. Now, in this one here, we totally misspaced it. We activated our L1 way too far away, so when he reacted with his R1, he hit us out of our attack, rightfully so. Here is a perfect example of a trade. He activated his R1 as soon as he saw us activating L1. We were close enough, and he activated soon enough that we were able to hit him, but he was also able to come up with his attack. Now, what you saw was we ended up doing our combo, and he didn't. He hit us for 1 hit, we hit him for 2, we out-damaged him, we came out on top on that trade. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that when you're fighting up against these matchups, It's really about the space. Because that L1 has a lot of forward momentum, don't get overly cocky and think that you can just hit him from any range, but that forward momentum can carry you so far into the opponent's range, hitbox range, that you can space it out and contest virtually any weapon that you want, as long as it's not an Ultra Greatsword, because there's a different set of timing that you want to use for those. So this weapon, very good. Here you can see what is he doing? Why are you trying to contest with a running R1 with Katana against an L1 of a paired Ultra Greatsword? It's not going to work, right? We're going to come out on top 100% of the time. So that's the first thing to note. The second thing is when you're going up against Ultra Greatswords, as you see in this matchup here, the set of timings that you use is very different. Now, what you want to do when you fight Ultra weapons in order to not get out-traded is, as they're following up with their second R1, you don't want to contest it, okay? If you see them raising that sword up or going for a second swing, starting up a second swing, don't contest it. You've missed your window to attack. Where you want to attack with these swords, and where you want to make sure you have the right range in place to activate your L1, is as they're kind of mid-swing with their first R1 attack with an Ultra weapon. That is where you want to go in, okay? That is where you want to press that L1, because by the time their R1 swing finished, you've already started up your L1. By the time their sword hits the ground, you're already moving forward, and they won't have time to move and activate their second follow-up R1, which means that you're going to hit them out of their attack if they even started up an attack, and you're going to combo them for 2 hits, okay? Of course, they might be able to roll away or something, but it will prevent you from trading with your opponent and being caught with a 2-hit combo, basically, which is what you saw me do a few times in this matchup, which is why he actually had the edge on us for a little bit, and he actually activated our tier to denial. I made a mistake of attacking on the follow-up R1, and then he attacked again, and I rolled into another attack, which essentially did 3 hits. Could have been completely avoided if I just would have realized that it was too late for me to start up my L1 and just wait for the next window of opportunity. So hopefully that makes sense. That is a way to consistently beat Ultra weapons, and you saw when I went up against a few other Ultra weapons in this video, that's what we did, and we came out on top. And this is technically another Ultra weapon, but this guy wasn't very good, no offense. But that's how you beat them, basically. Beat them consistently. And you can see, you can rush your opponents down with these weapons. You can play both defensive and offensively. These weapons have capabilities for both. Offensively, obviously, it's getting into your opponent's face, threatening with that L1, with that forward momentum. If you close the gap and make it very close, your opponent is going to have to really play the rolling game, because the amount of forward momentum you have and the ability for these swords to roll catch is absolutely insane. Your opponent virtually just has to spam circle. It's very hard to time it, but it can be done. But the hitbox of the sword will likely connect unless your opponent is just spamming that roll away, and it really forces them to play defensive. Now, like I said, these swords, they do have a little bit of recovery, so your opponent might think that they can come in on you and attack you after maybe 2 or 3 swings with your sword, which is technically correct, but you got to remember that these swords do have a very good range of coverage in terms of their follow-up L1 attacks, and your opponent can easily get caught out. So right here, we dominated this Fight Club. I think it was like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 matches we won, but I think I was like out of Estus, so I ended up going home. Now this is the final match that I played, and this is a good match to showcase, again, going up against an Ultra weapon, but also showcasing that back and forth in terms of playing offensive and playing defensive. And one quick thing before we just analyze the last little bit of this weapon and discuss the patch notes is I understand that the tips that I'm outlining may not reign true for everybody. They may not be adaptable to everyone's playstyle. I do know that there have been lots of people messaging me saying that I really helped them with PvP with the way that I explained some things or broke down the way that some weapons work. And if your brain works that way, if your playstyle works that way, then yes, these tips will likely help you. But it's not going to work for everybody. Don't expect to just think about these things and just try to utilize them right away. They will take practice to get better at, but I guarantee you that you will improve if you try to think about the game in a different way, right? The more perspectives you have on something, the more options you have to approach it and solve issues, in this case, PvP fights, right? But please take that into consideration and look at the kind of matches we played throughout this video. A lot of the players we fought were actual gold rank arena players, and they weren't bad by any means. So take that into consideration, but let's go ahead and get back to actually wrapping up the video. You can see here that with the recent patch, the reduced stamina consumption, absolutely ridiculous. We can attack 3 or 4 times in a row and still have enough stamina to roll away. I don't know why From Software decided to buff these weapons, but they were already extremely good to begin with, and the weapon art there is very, very good to use defensively. It's a very good tool to kind of just say, get off me. If you're going to approach me, I have this weapon art. It has amazing tracking, great hitbox range, and we're going to combo you for way more damage that you're ever going to get in on us with that. So please take it with a grain of salt. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys, but that is the weapon analysis. And just for a quick final note, I didn't really notice any damage increase. The weapon still does 596 damage for me pre-patch and post-patch, so I don't really think it got a damage buff despite the patch note saying that it did. But it seems like it did definitely get a reduced stamina consumption, which is really all you really cared about with this weapon, to be honest, because the weapon did a good damage to begin with. It only just needed that little bit of extra edge, which now it has in terms of having enough stamina to really mix up your options and play a little bit more versatile, which in my opinion makes the weapon a lot more broken than it needs to be. But again, if you want to beat them, use Perseverance, and if you want to use them, utilize the tips that I outlined in this video. And if you go up against somebody using Perseverance, don't use these weapons, because if they're competent, they're going to beat you. But anyways, that is the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That is it. Quantum is out.